Psychology says we have two systems of thinking, system 1 and system 2. System 1 is quick and spontaneous. And suppose somebody throws a ball at you or something and you duck. So that's system 1. You don't wait to calculate the speed and the trajectory of the ball to really take a decision here. System 2 is slow and deliberate and requires a lot of effort. So for example, somebody asks you what is 19 multiplied by 27. So now you're using system 2 because it requires a certain kind of energy to calculate. So intuition, when you are reacting intuitively, it actually is part of system 1.
Hi, Nimesh. Many times people take a decision based on their intuition or what sometimes they call a gut feeling. Is there really something like a gut feeling?
There's a very interesting story about a decision taken on gut feeling. I don't think many people know about Lieutenant Stanislav Petrov. He actually saved the world from a nuclear war.
Okay.
This guy was stationed near Moscow in a bunker, and he was monitoring the missile system. So he was responsible for watching the satellite activity and monitoring if there is any missile launch. And his job was that the moment he sees a launch from an enemy state, he has to report to his political masters and they will probably respond to it. So on September 26th, 1983, suddenly the screen in front of him starts flashing red, and it says word launch, flashing on it. And the system has detected that US has fired 5 missiles towards Russia. And this guy has to quickly tell his superiors so that they can take retaliatory action. Obviously, Russia would launch their own missiles at that time then. But the guy froze. He didn't act. He didn't pick up the phone and call anybody. He just froze for some time. And he's losing valuable reaction time because as much delay the information goes, Russia has less response time to it. In the interview later, he said that he stopped because it didn't feel right. He said, I had a gut feeling that this is not right. So he rechecked the whole system. And yeah, surely it was showing some missiles. But he was wondering, why would US launch at this time? And why would they put only 5 missiles? Because it would not hit Soviet capabilities as much. And the retaliatory action from Soviet would destroy US then. So he was wondering and he didn't act. He actually reported that there's a malfunction in this. And later on it was discovered that he was right about it. So here the system had said something, but because of his gut feeling, he didn't react. Because of his experience, he didn't react, and he saved the world.
Does trusting your intuition work?
There's a concept of expert intuition in psychology. Psychology says we have two systems of thinking, system 1 and system 2. System 1 is quick and spontaneous. And suppose somebody throws a ball at you or something and you duck. So that's system 1. You don't wait to calculate the speed and the trajectory of the ball to really take a decision here. System 2 is slow and deliberate and requires a lot of effort. So for example, somebody asks you what is 19 multiplied by 27. So now you're using system 2 because it requires a certain kind of energy to calculate. So intuition, when you are reacting intuitively, it actually is part of system 1.
Okay.
Now, what we talk about is expert intuition. Herbert Simon, who's a cognitive psychologist and economist, he says that whenever a cue is provided to an expert, that cue helps the expert assess the information in his or her memory, and that information provides an answer. So intuition is nothing more, nothing less than a recognition of a pattern. This also provides areas where intuition does work. So according to Herbert Simon, then there are 2 conditions where intuition can work for you or expert intuition can work. One, the environment has to be regular and repeating.
Okay.
Second, these patterns can be learned with a decent feedback on you so that you can develop a certain model to work with that. So if these 2 conditions are there, expert intuition can work. Now, if I combine these 2-3 different concepts like system 1, system 2, and these environments, I'm not a psychologist, but let me try. Whenever you are practicing something or doing something, learning something, you are putting effort on system 2. So you are learning something, you're trying to do something for the first time. Slowly, as you are able to develop skill about it, so you're now learning to see the patterns in that, you're able to understand what you're doing better, and you develop a certain model to work with that develops skill.
Right.
Skill transfers this idea from system 2 to system 1.
Okay.
And more skills in a particular area make you an expert. So now, even if in any area outcomes are uncertain, as an expert, you recognize the patterns and you are able to predict a certain outcome. And in any new situation that comes, that's why the expert is able to look at it and quickly judge something. Think of a doctor, like an experienced doctor. The moment he or she looks at the patient, many a times, knows that okay, this is the problem. Better yet, if the doctor has experience with this patient earlier. Firemen sometimes they can find out okay, this is the area of problem or this is where the source of the fire was. And for people like us, the moment we pick up the phone and hear the voice of our spouse, we know what mood they are in. So that is kind of an intuition, and that is something that can be trusted.
Does intuition work in the investment world?
So when experts who are repeatedly looking at certain patterns and they develop a skill over a period of time. And some have confessed to it also. Like George Soros once said that when he puts a trade and it is going against him, he starts getting a backache. And he said, I have to decide whether I have to double my position, double down on it, or I have to quit, hit a stop loss and get out. He said, only when I decide one way or the other that the backache stops. So there is something about an expert whose mind or the body is signaling something. You will find some traders who are very good at reading information or stock price patterns on the screen. Some of them are able, from this whole noise, they are able to figure out what are some of the good signals that are coming from the market and trade on them. Fundamental investors also, many of them take an intuitive judgment on whether a certain new product or a new service launched by a company will do well, what kind of management quality it is. Also the valuation range in which a company can trade. Many of the seasoned investors can take a judgment or intuitive call on that. However, once the system 1 takes an intuitive call, the system 2 is used to justify it. Okay, to find answers or facts to just support the decision already taken. It can be confirmation bias actually. But when they go right, some people may admit that this was my intuitive call. When they go wrong, nobody will tell you that this was my gut feeling and it went wrong.
Can we train our intuition?
The market provides an environment which is right for using some expert intuition. Because of human nature, markets go through deep cycles. That means there are patterns which are repeated. And hence, this is the right environment which can be used for expert intuition. But how do you develop intuition then? As we discussed, system 1 is quick and spontaneous. If system 1 is not acting based on skill or expertise, it will start relying on heuristics, which are like rule of thumb or biases that we have. It will start reacting to that. So if you want to develop expertise or intuition, you need to do two things. One, develop skill. Second, reduce the impact of biases in your decision making. Now, how do you develop skill in something? See, experience may not always become expertise. If experience can be put into a kind of a test where you get regular feedback, you collect good feedback, try to analyze what went right, what went wrong, understand the patterns, that develops expertise. And that can help. Also, if you study financial history, you understand better about human nature and how the patterns are formed, and that adds to your expertise in understanding market behavior. The second part is reducing the impact of emotions or biases into your decision making. This can be done by following a set process or an algorithm. Suppose you are not an expert in a field, you better stick to the book in terms of following a particular process in arriving at your decision till the time you actually develop a good expertise on it. That keeps the biases out, and then slowly you start understanding or making models on your own.
So it's like the checklist that we spoke about last time.
Absolutely.
Follow the
right.
checklist.
Yes, follow the checklist till then.
What is the best way to use intuition in an investment decision process?
One of the beautiful ideas that I came across for using intuition in your decision making was by Daniel Kahneman. So he's a famous Nobel-winning psychologist. In 1955, Daniel Kahneman was asked by the Israeli army to help in the interview process of candidates and recruits. There was a process already set where a lot of experts were interviewing candidates at that time. But what the army found when the interviews were being conducted and a score was given or a certain prediction was made about a recruit or a candidate, the outcomes were, or the performance of the candidate was not as per what the interviewer had mentioned or predicted. So there was interviews, but the prediction was not right about the performance. It was going haywire. So Daniel Kahneman studied the interview process. He said that a lot of weight of the interviewer was about understanding the mental life of the recruit and the dynamics of his life. They were putting too much weightage on during the interview on what facts were being told. He changed the system a little bit. He said, first, collect all the important data about the candidate, about his skills and track record and everything, and give a score separately to that and keep that. And then do the interview of the candidate. And at the end, the interviewer was asked, now you close your eyes for 5 minutes and think of this person as a soldier and give a score of 1 to 5 as to how good a soldier the person would become. And this scoring was done. And they found out that the difference between performance and prediction actually significantly reduced. And this intuition system of 1 to 5 scoring at the end, close your eyes and put a score, worked very well. So Daniel Kahneman says that intuition can be used, but use it as delayed intuition. First, collect in a disciplined way the data that is relevant for the decision. Okay, analyze it in the right way and give a score separately first, and then use your intuition on top of it. So for investors also, the similar thing can work. Collect all the relevant data according to the checklist that you mentioned and whatever your investment process is. Collect the data and analyze it in the right way and give a score. Then take 5 minutes and based on your intuition, give a score on top of it. So I think this is a good way of combining your expertise along with a good analysis.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.